Alrighty, so it looks like we're underway already here. And we've got Eddie Sturgill on Jund and Willie Ryder on Ponza, which has become a bit of a modern, you know, tit for tat, one for one, kind of showdown of the top decks a little bit.
Yeah, if Ponza can't come out quickly, I feel like Jund is fairly favorable. Those draws where you have to worry about birds into Stone Rain on 2, into Bloodbraid hitting a Stone Rain or something similar are the ones that you really have to worry about. It looks like Willie has come out a little slower, the Utopia Sprawl on that, and 2 Force.
Interesting, so he's getting the basic, trying to play around the Blood Moon here. We did not see a turn 3 Blood Moon, even though he has the Utopia Sprawl on the Forest.
Just trying to insulate himself for one that'll come down later, possibly.
This is true. I mean, he's definitely going to try and make sure he gets that Lily out of his hand.
Yeah. Looks like he's got a Decay, a Terminate, a bunch of lands.
And a Forest, very importantly. The Forest is going to turn on that Decay. We'll see if it looks like it's getting fired off here.
He has a redundant Decay, so that makes sense that he would do that to kind of slow him down.
Especially when Willie has no red mana right now.
Right. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to worry so much about the Blood Moon if you have multiple answers to it in your hand already.
Absolutely. And hey, Sinkhole is a great card, and I think that's what we just saw there.
I'm always sad they haven't reprinted any of those really old land destruction cards like that. Stone Rain's been around since Alpha, always gets reprints everywhere, lots of love, and they keep it out of the other colors. I always remember fond memories of Ice Storming people and Sinkholing people.
Ice Storm. I think even Ice Quake is another great one from back then. Care to feel a Snowland?
Yeah. Thermokarst is the green one from Ice Age.
Is it the green one?
Yeah. The Ice Quake one is actually the black one that is black for and 1. There's Sinkhole on ours.
There we go. We got Sinkhole up there. For everyone at home, this is a black destroy target land, which Abrupt K did a good impersonation of.
When it hit the Utopia Sprawl. Willie's Stone Raiding the basic swamp, so that's going to be helpful if he does end up finding a Blood Moon.
Let's see. Another Utopia Sprawl.
Willie's going to want to be able to commit to the board more than just ramping now, since he's facing a 4/5 Tarmogoyf.
See if Eddie can manage to get another card type in the graveyard there, and kind of improve his clock with his Tarmogoyf, really put pressure on him. Swinging in with the Goyf.
Was that a Traverse in the front of Eddie's hand?
Let's see there. Might be a Scavenging Ooze. No, it looks like a Traverse.
A Traverse and a Bolt and a Liliana of the Veil. And I think he's still holding on to that second Decay and a Terminate. So he's got a whole bunch of action, a little light on lands, and no second black.
And Willie, in classic Ponza style, is not giving him too much to use that Terminate on. We'll see what we got here, though.
Oh.
Wow.
Don't usually see Verdurous Gearhulk in
Yeah,
these
absolutely.
lists.
This is a really cool standard inclusion, making a little bit of debut in Modern. Definitely a big beater, and will take out that Tarmogoyf in a fight.
Not something you would expect to see. A little easier to answer. Doesn't get any immediate value like some of the Ponza creatures, like Bloodbraid Elf or Inferno Titan, some things like that. So, unfortunately, easily answered 1 for 1 with no advantage.
This is true. If we saw more Noble Hierarchs or some other elf creatures, you could, in theory, kind of soup up your elf creature and have 2 threats in play with Verdurous Gearhulk. That might be some usage for it there as well.
Looks like Eddie's going to go get a land. I'm not sure he has Delirium yet. land instant, and sorcery. So he's missing one.
He found his other swamp. So he's going to be able to have that 2 black mana for Liliana the Veil, which will really start pressuring Willie's hand, who really can only cast like 1 spell a turn, just because 3 is the average CMC in that deck.
Hopefully for Eddie, Willie doesn't have or top deck another land destruction to ruin his potential multiple Lilianas. He pick up a second one?
I think, yeah, it looks like he has 2 Lilianas in hand now.
Currently Eddie has him at 8, and he's got a Tarmogoyf at 5/6 and a Bolt in hand, so...
A hidden downside of that Verter Skeelhork is that it is in fact an artifact. So it does pump Eddie's Goyf here, which improves his clock by a whole turn.
That's true. Even bigger than we thought.
Even bigger than we thought. I guess there isn't a creature in Eddie's graveyard. That's right. It's just land and instant and sorcery with the traverse now.
Yep. So that's 3, and the artifact and creature with the Verterus. What is the 6th type?
The
enchantment? Oh, the Utopia Sprawl that was abrupt decayed on turn
Utopia
3.
Sprawl.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm not sure. We came in pretty late. Not pretty late, I guess, but we came in after they had already begun their match, so I think Willie, unfortunately, was on a mulligan, so that could have something to do with the amount of action he's had for this game. Looks like that's game 1.
Alrighty. The Lightning Bolt will do it. Lightning Bolt, always in true form, taking your opponent down just far enough so that you can finish him off with the creatures.
Yep. In case any of you guys are just tuning in for the night, this is GameSwap Mason Friday Night Modern, brought to you by Top Deck Productions. I'm Ted Dwyer, and this is
Patrick Aguilar, and welcome to Ted and Pat's Modern Adventure here on this Friday night.
Not bad.
I do what I can.
So what are we expecting out of the Ponza sideboard here? You think it's going to improve the matchup at all?
The Ponza sideboard? With a deck like Jund, it's really hard to counter their, 1-for-1 removal. It just kind of attacks at the similar game that you're trying to play with Ponza, only your spells cost 3 and their spells usually cost 2.
I see our stream runner is bringing up the old school Ice Storm for us, which we were discussing earlier. I agree with you, it's pretty tough to go 1-for-1 against Jund, and they have so many efficient answers. But I would expect Eddie to board out some of his removal just to kind of get a little bit more threat dense, maybe a little bit more resilient to Blood Moon, though he does have main deck answers.
This is true. We could see some number of Fatal Pushes coming out.
Right.
And just because Willie has very, if any, targets for that one.
Just birds, and I'm not sure if he's running a secondary mana creature, probably Hierarch.
Arbor Elf?
Arbor Elf? Yes, that's
to untap the forest.
Often. Yeah, the Utopia Sprawl to ramp even further. Winter's Grasp. I didn't even remember that one. Is that from Portal? Yeah, looks like Portal.
Some great art on Winter's Grasp,
Thank
though.
you, Stream Runner. You are
on
top of all the destruction. Yeah. I think I was taking a break during Portal. I would expect that Willie, if he doesn't have any in his main deck, he'd probably bring in some trackers so that he can grind out. That is one way that Ponza can last into the mid and late game against Jund. That's a fantastic sideboard card for them.
Yeah, that's definitely not a bad inclusion. It kind of just plays a similar role that Bob would play out of the Jund deck, only in green.
Right. Not so much damage, a little bit later, and kind of controlling when you want to get those draws, so long as you're hitting your land drops.
A little bit slower than Bob, but still kind of got that small creature draw power going. Wouldn't expect it getting too big, just because Eddie has so many answers he can't possibly board them all out. But we'll see if he can draw some cards off of it this game.
Yeah, I'm sure his decays are staying in for those Blood Moons and the early creatures or the Utopia Sprawls. It has just a bevy of hits. So our stream runner has brought up a different art of Winter's Grasp, which is that Tempest? What is that?
It does look like it's Tempest. I think it's vastly inferior art. However, the mammoth right in the front there, I think, harkens to Elephant Graveyard, which is way back. I think that's Arabian Nights.
Arabian Nights.
Really just trying to throw stream off, see if they can bring up Elephant Graveyard.
Now, before he brings it up, we can quiz you and see, what does Elephant Graveyard do, or what kind of card is it?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It was from the cycle of lands that don't tap for mana, which is quite a good... Or does this one actually tap for mana?
It does, at a cost.
It does. Oh, that's right. This is the one that taps for colorless mana, or regenerates an elephant or mammoth, which I don't believe there are too many mammoths running around anymore, but...
No, there are not. There are elephants.
There are certainly elephants.
Even currently in Standard, I believe there's Greenbelt Rampager. One-man elephant. All-star in the mono green deck. Or now green-black deck with a alternate configuration. Kind of optimizing that deck. Looks like Eddie's taking a mulligan. And Willie has kept. And Willie being on the play this game, I would expect, should be fairly helpful.
And being on the play for Ponza is really powerful here. Luckily, Jund has that answer in Abrupt Decay, but just being able to get that 3-mana spell out way before your opponent can react is really huge. Looks like we've got a full list of all possible elephant choices in Standard.
We have a number of elephants currently in Standard. I did remember that recent one from Limited. Our stream runner has moved it, so I can't tell you what it is because I don't remember the name. But it's a white elephant, not often played, excavation elephant. 4 and a white, 3/5 kicker. Yeah, you usually don't have too many artifacts in your graveyard in Limited, and it's a little bit below power level for Standard, or especially modern plays. You won't be seeing that one impact anything.
Now, if this was like Gravedigger and it just got the artifact back without having to pay additional 2, I think it would. I think in that format it would make an impact. But paying additional 2 simply for an ETB effect. Ooh, we've got a really powerful play from Eddie here, going for the turn 1 Thoughtseize, kind of the hallmark of Jund. And without thinking, getting rid of the Stone Rain here. We saw a hand from Willie that included, it looks like, a bunch of creatures. So he might be on the beatdown plan, hoping Eddie took out too many of his Terminates.
He's going to need to hit some mana to be able to cast most of those threats. Looks like he had a Bolt, a Kitchen Finks, a Stormbreath Dragon, and a Thragtusk. So 2 of those are 5. Finks will come down if he can draw any land. And the Bolt currently isn't doing anything, but it is insurance against something like a turn 2 Bob, if Eddie were to do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not even a Goyf, though, because I think a Goyf would already be a 2/3, and if you tried to bolt it, it would turn into a 3/4 before the damage. So
Ye old magic Goyf. I think it looks like Willie just drew another Stone Rain off the top right after having to discard one. So let's see if Eddie plays out a more valuable colored mana and ends up getting screwed by the top deck here.
He's got a Stomping Ground. I'm not sure if he has any other lands in his hands. It looks like he has another Thoughtseize, a Kolaghan's Command, a Lightning Bolt.
Fires off the second Thoughtseize. So he likes seeing the same cards over. There it is. He's
going to be happy to get that.
Yeah. Very happy down there.
Willie still has the issue of needing to draw a land, even if that...
It looks like he does have the right answers, though, for what Willie has in hand.
Yeah, Willie's just... only threat card right now is a Lily.
Did he hit the land? It was not a land, but it is a creature.
Goose is a great card to have, main or post board, but it does sometimes go against your Tarmogoyf size. So
this is true. A lightning bolt taking care of that right away.
It's important to answer it early before it gets out of control.
Absolutely, especially with that creature heavy hand. Looks like Eddie found his third land here.
I don't think you want to go Lily Sacrifice because the Sphinx will just persist back in, gain him some life and be able to take it down. But if you do go with Lily, which may be his best play, forcing a discard, he's going to lose something reasonably good. It looks like he doesn't want to do that.
He's leaving up Bolt and Colgan's command, which is not a bad choice if you're going to make the Sphinx persist on Willie's turn and make him discard a card.
Yeah, it seems like he may be trying to line that up for end of turn, K command, hit the kitchen Sphinx, make it persist, make Willie discard, untap. If he draws a land, be able to Lily and Bolt the persisted, or just play a Lily and clear the board if he doesn't add to the board. However, we know that
5 mana is the magic number.
And he's been, luckily for Willie, he has been drawing lands. So he has Stormbreath and Thragtusk possibly coming down this turn. Which would you go with if you were in Willie's seat?
Ooh, I'm not sure. I think just looking at the kitchen Sphinx, you have kind of Lily protection. You might go with the Stormbreath and try and beat in for damage, but it looks like you went with the Thragtusk, gaining all of the life.
And now he would have the option of sacking the Thragtusk or the Sphinx. Both don't die too easily. When one dies, turns into a 3/3. The other one dies, comes back, gains you some life again.
Yeah, the Magic Gods were very kind to Willie on his draws here. Kind of getting everything he's needing. The Lightning Bolt will take out the Sphinx, and it'll persist back here, pushing him up to 26 life.
This is one of those matches where life total doesn't necessarily matter at this point. However, it being indicative of the winning player, when you have the most life and the best board state, you're doing all right.
You're doing all right. You got a Thragtusk in play, it's a good time. Especially with that 5 mana, and there are so many just live giant monsters that Willie can pick off the top of his deck. In comparison to Eddie, who, you know, those Tarmogoyfs are 3/4s right now, and that's, you know, not going to fight well for long.
No, it doesn't fight well with the current board, even if you were to have one. Ponza, once they get to this stage of the game, if you don't already have an advantage accrued, then it's going to be a difficult uphill battle for Eddie. He's got powerful cards in his hand, but not everything's lining up very well on the other side of the board.
He did hit another land here, so safe from that Stone Rain plan, but that Liliana and that Colgan's command, neither option looks too appetizing.
As we were talking through before, I think Eddie may have wanted to go with the Colgan's command to kill the Sphinx and make him discard to better use his mana last turn, so that this turn, had he drawn a land, which he did, he could have Lilied and bolted. So he could have possibly killed the Thragtusk or killed the persisted Sphinx, and then force a sack with the other one, leaving Willie with still either a 3/3 or a 2/1. But it would have been a stronger line, I think.
I agree with your assessment there, especially you know that Willie does not have land in hand, so you're hitting a spell that is now going to hit Eddie in the face.
Yeah.
And it is a doozy.
You don't see Stormbreath too often. You do see it out of Ponza quite a bit, but it's been a while since it's been around.
The infamous Elspeth killer from back in Theros in that red-green monsters deck.
Alternatively, Elspeth could kill Stormbreath Dragon, even though it's pro-white.
This is true.
I'm not sure what gets Eddie out of this. He's at 3 and looking at 3 strong threats across the table.
Even a damnation here would blow up the board and then leave Willie with a 3-3. So that's not going to cut it.
Yeah, it looks like he's dead on board. I'm not sure he has any outs. He's just trying to think about the next game as he shuffles, maybe. Try to get Willie to play out something else to get a little bit more information for game 3. Because as we saw in game 1, Willie isn't playing stockless to Ponza, having that Verter's Gearhulk on the first game.
This is true. He might be on the line where you take out some number of your land destruction going into game 2 and bring in kind of more of that mid-rangey package.
Right.
That Ponza has, the quote-unquote new Ponza they've been shifting towards.
We did see the Stone Rains were still in after game 1, but all of those threats,
they just kept coming every turn.
I'd be surprised if they were all main deck, so. He may have trimmed on his mana creatures. We didn't see any, so if he is running birds and Arbor Elf and possibly Hierarch, then he either just missed them all or he trimmed on them knowing that they're a bit of a disadvantage when you're playing against hand disruption. If they take your actual threats and all you have is ramp, sometimes...
That is the absolute, with any of these red-green decks where you can't really look at the top of your deck and arrange the cards and that you want to see them in the right order, you can end up with all ramp and no threats, or all threats and no ramp. And it just all kind of came together there with getting all the lands that he needed at the right time to cast his spells. And Eddie really couldn't come back from that.
Considering Willie drew into land when he was stuck with 5 drops in his hand, it was very beneficial for him to do that. And Eddie, even if Eddie had had a different hand, what Jund has access to against what Willie was doing is really challenging for him to answer all the things, since there were so many 2-for-1s on the opposite side of the board, whereas usually Jund is known for the one who takes advantage of the 2-for-1s.
Absolutely. And that Kolaghan's command, he had that opportunity, but passed up on it. We will see if he makes any modifications here for game 3.
It looks like neither of them are going back to the sideboard. Imagine Eddie will take the play on this one, which will be helpful for him. Willie was making a comment about Arbor Elf, so maybe he did have them in.
I think that's, if you're going to take out a mana dork, that's probably not the one, just because you have those Utopia Sprawls in the deck. It tends to generate a lot of advantage.
Yeah, so they're even more ramp than, say, a bird or a Hierarch if you were playing both of those as well. So I agree. And if you're taxing Eddie's like Abrupt Decays with him hitting the Utopia Sprawls, well then it leaves him vulnerable to something like Blood Moon if you still have that in your deck, which can be very punishing to Jund. We saw Eddie, game 1, having a forest and a swamp and fetching up his second swamp. Jund usually only plays a few basics, so...
Yeah, maybe 2 swamps I think might be his... all in his deck, and if he gets some LD there, blows up the swamp, and then Blood Mooned.
Yeah, that was what was looking like happening game 1 with Willie Stone Raining the swamp, cutting him off of double black. Didn't work out for him that game, unfortunately, though. Looks like he brought in Grafdigger's Cage?
It looked like Grafdigger's Cage too to me. I'm not sure what card that was. It could be Dampening Sphere, preventing the land from tapping for double with the Utopia Sprawls on it.
Interesting. The art is somewhat similar on those two, and there are both 1-mana artifacts, I believe, so. I'm not sure why you would, if it is a Grafdigger's Cage, I'm not sure why you would bring that in this matchup.
This is maybe with that Gearhulk, not a traditional list, but I don't think we have anything like Court of Calling or anything like that would.
No Court of Calling, no companies, didn't see any Eternal Witnesses or anything like that.
Right. Ooh, is that a Chandra we've got?
Torch of Defiance, it is.
All right, I like that a lot.
Is that a grapple from the past? What is the card next to Chandra in the Stone Rain?
Well, I was too focused on the Chandra, and the double Stone Rain we've got for Willie, which could be dangerous here. Eddie luckily has his Swamp again, but...
Oh, Willie missed his second land drop, it looks like. Chat mentioned that it looked like Eddie did side in a few cards. I didn't notice that, so... Good catch.
That looks like the Multani Acid Moss. The bounce a land and return to your hand.
The one next to that, he moved. I think he drew the Multani on his turn, and the one that's still next to the Stone Rain.
It looks like maybe Witchstalker, another Theros standard all-star.
Witchstalker. I think that was a core fort. No, that's not a Witchstalker. But
Obstinate Baloth.
Baloth, yeah.
Okay, a little bit more traditional there.
What is the Witchstalker? Was that a 3/3 hexproof for 3?
And whenever someone casts a blue or black spell, it had some additional effect.
Yeah, what happened? Maybe our stream runner can help us out and look up Witchstalker. Just remember it looking like a big hound with a bunch of teeth. 3/3 hexproof.
Whenever they cast a blue or black spell during your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Witchstalker.
Oh, thank you, stream runner. Core 14.
Good set, good set.
I was always a big fan of the core sets. I think they did a good job of bridging the gap between the new sets. A lot of efficient reprints that can go into everything.
Things that are hard to fit flavor-wise. Inquisition of Kozilek was always a big one for me. Always like expecting that in a core set because it's really hard to stick something with the name Kozilek in a non-Eldrazi set.
Right. And then we got the Eldrazi set, and they didn't put Inquisition in it.
I know. I was shocked by that. Luckily, they have been pretty good peppering it in with some of the Master sets.
Yeah, I think it was in Conspiracy not too long ago as well. Conspiracy 2. That was a good reprint for it to come back through. How do you feel about Core 19, about the core sets coming back?
I've seen a few of the cards. I think the Planeswalkers at 6 mana are probably pushing the line a little bit. I wasn't a huge fan of the Sarkon that came out recently. But overall, in terms of casual funness, what is it? Johnny's Pridemate, always a favorite. You can see like a life gain deck, especially with the horse.
Oh, with the horse that's from Amonkhet?
The horse from Amonkhet.
Devastation?
Yeah. Yep. Whenever you gain life, make a horse token.
And all your horses have indestructible. What's that? Crested Sunmare.
Crested Sunmare. There we go.
That is a terribly underplayed card. I believe somebody did take it to camera matches at a GP when there was a Black-White Ascend Matters deck. It was great to see it on camera. A friend of mine mentioned that today, I believe, there was a zombie spoiled that gives other zombies Death Touch, and he was excited that zombies might make a comeback because Liliana's Mastery is still in print. And
this is true?
I don't think it will be come fall. We lose all of Amonkhet and Aether Revolt and Kaladesh.
Is it Death Baron is the reprint? They give skeletons and zombies +1/+1 and Death Touch?
Yeah, I didn't even see it today, so... They are reprinting Reclamation Sage. I always love when they do that.
I love that card so much.
And that's going to be a great card.
Great card
to have
good
in Standard as well.
Yep,
considering how many, enchantments are being thrown around and artifacts as well, and with all the Karn structs. Seeing a lot of Karn in Modern, actually. The GP Vegas that's going on right now. You see some main deck Karns in the affinity list and some sideboard ones.
Yep, absolutely.
Just coming down on turn 2 or turn 3, making a Karn struct, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh gosh, that's a 7/7 that you didn't really pay anything for. You can just keep making them. Yep.
Yeah, there we go. That's the full art Death Baron promo, which is, absolutely getting me excited to build a standard deck to go out to game day.
Looks wonderful.
Yeah, it looks absolutely beautiful.
And it happens to be a wizard.
It does happen to be a wizard. Feeling a little bit of lightning bolt and counterspell out of your zombies deck.
Yeah, always looking out for those wizards. And
Eddie, back to our game, seems to have assembled an army of 1/2 Tarmogoyfs. there's our promo up on screen. If you have not checked this out yet, it is quite beautiful. I'm ready to see exactly where the foiling ends up. Those red eyes, I'm sure, will be great.
Yeah, there was the Battle Bond set that came out recently, and you had alternate art foils on some of the cards, and Rowan, the red Planeswalker, the foiling on that card was beautifully done. It had the eyes foiled out, and the background really just came to life. So Eddie played a Lily and told Eddie to sacrifice a creature.
So Willie took out his Obstinate Baloth from the Lily tick down, Willie and Lily. And so Scavenging Ooze is really showing its strength here, being able to keep those graveyards clear of card types. And it looks like we've got Will Kenrith up there for us. I think actually there was one poll in the shop on the release day of both Will and his sister.
Last weekend, I happened to do one of these drafts towards the end of the night, and our opponents in round 2 had pulled Rowan and Will in the foil form, and also pulled Will and Rowan in the regular form.
Out of a pack too?
Yes. So they happen to get the foils and the regular printings of those. And I'll tell you, they're a combo in that.
Two-Headed Giant, you got some time to build up some mana.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden your creatures are turning into 0/3s, and then Rowan's killing them all.
Yeah. That is a beating.
We did happen to be able to grind through that, surprisingly.
Wow,
but
really?
it was no easy task. Looks like Eddie Maelstrom pulsed away that Scavenging Ooze, and now he has 4 Tarmogoyfs on the battlefield.
I bet Willie was wishing he had a Maelstrom Pulse right now.
Yeah.
Splash a little black, get rid of those Tarmogoyfs. Swing in for 6.
Though it's been down a long time, that was a Grafdigger's Cage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Grafdigger's Cage is something you necessarily need. Eddie may have been concerned about something else. He may have seen something or expected something to be coming that we haven't seen.
Oh, interesting. Apparently, according to Eddie, it was an include because he had nothing else to include. I suppose if you discarded off Lily, then you could get another card type in your graveyard. But I think he elected to play it instead.
It does make the Tarmogoyfs bigger typically, and there aren't a lot of artifacts otherwise.
So Willie did hit that important 6th mana here, which will allow him to cast Inferno Titan, which will kill the Liliana and be able to block Tarmogoyfs, which would really set him back into this game. However, it doesn't look like he has that or any other threat in his hand. I'm not sure what that last card is.
He's thinking pretty hard about it, though, so has to figure out if he wants to play it now or not. I would recommend so if he's down to 1 card and he's facing against a Lily. It looks like he has 2 cards left in his hand. Tapping 4.
Could be another Obstinate Baloth on 4. Or another Acid Moss.
I haven't got him to look at it. Oh, it's
the Chandra. What is he going to do with it here? So he's only got 1 mana left.
Can always plus for mana with Chandra.
I suppose.
If he does have the availability of playing another spell, like say a creature, he wouldn't even be able to play a Finks or anything, though, with adding red.
That's true.
If he kills a Goyf, which it looks like he's going to be doing, Chandra will be dying next turn.
And I believe creature's already in the graveyard, so the other Goyf will remain the same size.
I don't think there's a Planeswalker, so once Eddie dispatches Chandra, it will grow to a 4/5.
It will essentially gain him life, though, just because he has to attack now with the Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, he is buying some time.
Lightning Bolt for turn. He will have to discard his last card to Liliana.
which was a Liliana. And
it's like Acid Moss.
Acid Moss, yeah.
So can he pull that Inferno Titan off the top? Still wipes out that Liliana this turn. What does he have? He's thinking about it.
He's still at 13.
It was a land. All right, he's still in this. That Inferno Titan will still do quite a bit of damage.
Unless Eddie draws a land. Oh, there's a Bob. Still a 3-turn clock for Eddie, so Willie has some time to draw some outs here. Thragtusk wouldn't be bad. Finks wouldn't be miserable, but there's a Thragtusk.
All right, there's the swag test coming in. RTR Innistrad, Standard All-Star, partnered with its famous Restoration Angel Blinks.
Oh, yes. Going back to Ravnica in the fall.
Very excited
maybe
about
we'll
that.
see Thragtusk again.
Maybe. I believe he was actually from the core set,
You're right,
in 13,
he was.
around there, but you know, definitely a huge player in Standard during its entire tenure. The Lightning Bolt will take out the Mama Bear, but we do still have a 3/3 coming in.
Eddie decided to Maelstrom Pulse the Utopia Sprawl so that his Goyf would get bigger, I imagine, if there is no other enchantment.
That does tick up his clock a turn, so I believe that was a good idea, especially if he took out the the Thragtusk first, and so it wouldn't trade with the Tarmogoyf. He could have evaded into that a bit, but looks like he went the safer route here.
Alternatively, Eddie could have pulsed the Beast token to get in with the Bob, which actually increases the damage by 1, which would have put Willie to 7, and then would have made his next turn lethal if there were nothing to come down on Willie's side.
Mm-hmm. Now that Liliana's at 4, it tends to be now it's going to be much harder to just draw an Inferno Titan. I think he's on Stormbreath Dragon. If he drew this turn, he'd be able to knock that out, because being able to have 2 blockers really is going to be important, because Eddie's deck is just full of removal.
Right. I think Eddie may have been thinking if he got the Utopia Sprawl, he could have kept him off the 6th land, but he had the fetch. Inferno Titan is a good draw.
Inferno Titan is the draw.
He can keep Lily off of Edicting, and then it's right now bigger than that Tarmogoyf. 6/6 against a 5/6.
Alternatively, it looks like, so it looks like he went with 1 on Bob, and then maybe 2 on Lily, so Eddie has to cash in Lily if he...
and then he can still sack the Beast and have a 6/6 against a 5/6. That's solid play.
I love the Titans. I think Grave Titan is criminally underplayed as well. I think that card is now over $10 again. Thinking about slotting that in Grixis Control. Just throwing out some zombies, beating in. So it looks like there's some confusion down on the floor. So Inferno Titan has been eroded to any target instead of just creature or player. Under the new targeting rules, Planeswalkers are independent targets. You no longer target a player and then redirect.
It's a simplification that is nice to have, but with all the old cards, it does take some getting used to with the familiarity if you're allowed to target Planeswalkers or not.
Mm-hmm. There we got good old Gravy Train up on stream here. Death Touch 6/6 because it needed Death Touch because the 6/6 isn't big enough to kill everything.
Yeah, it's not. Oh, for example, it would not currently kill that Tarmogoyf.
This is true.
So it does need Death Touch.
Did we get an instant in the graveyard?
I think maybe they just miscounted earlier. There was, when Chandra died...
Oh, the enchantment off of
Utopia Sprawl.
Utopia Sprawl, yes.
He did move it up at that point. I think he didn't move it up when Chandra died, so I think that's where the miss was, and they just corrected that.
Okay.
So now that 6/6 against the 6/7 is not as exciting. And Eddie no longer has to edict it away.
He reveals a land here.
It's the tapped land.
Eddie's got a second man land, which actually is going to be relevant here because that man land's going to attack next turn. He's got enough mana to activate it.
Looks like Willie's going down to 2. He's got some time buy-in draws, but he's going to be chumping. As long as Eddie untaps and activates, he'll be able to win here.
Willie might be looking for a Scavenging Ooze. Although, does the Grafdigger's Cage prevent the Scavenging Ooze activation?
I don't believe it does. I think it just prevents creatures from entering from the library or the graveyard. So you can still interact with the graveyard. But he doesn't even need to activate his man land.
The Terminate will do it.
Did Eddie gain 2 life? Trying to address Chuck's question.
Hello, everyone. We're back in the booth.
They can't see you wave. Your hand's off camera.
Oh, that's true. There we go. There's my hands on camera now. So I think that was a great game, something that we're definitely going to see as a standard in Modern from now on.
You're always seeing Jund, even though there weren't any Bloodbraid Elves. Same old Jund.
Absolutely. I wonder, actually, the great question for Eddie, if he has Bloodbraid in his deck or not.
He does. I saw him shuffle some when he was sideboarding. I didn't catch the sideboarding, but I did see some Bloodbraid Elves as he was shuffling.
You did catch them as he was shuffling.
Yeah.
I know the Bob versions typically have the Bloodbraids, and if you're not running Bloodbraid, then you don't have Bob, although I don't know why you wouldn't be running Bloodbraid these days.
Yeah, it's a great card. It has definitely not skewed the meta too heavily as people anticipated and were worried about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Bloodbraid was fine on ban. I think Jace, also seeing very little play, seems to be a safe on ban as well. People were kind of in panic mode for a while, just trying to shove him in everywhere. But
I think the efficiency of the Eldrazi decks really kind of still go over the top, and Tron just pushing out these decks that are trying to be fair and control the board. So we've seen Eldrazi Temple just be the thing that soars above.
Getting some confirmation from our stream runner that Eddie is playing Bloodbraid Elf.
Excellent.
Yeah, the problem with Jace is sometimes turn 4 is too slow. And you would expect to maybe see him in something like Jeskai Control, which is a really popular deck now, and probably close to, if not the most prevalent in the meta in big tournaments. But Jace just is currently being overlooked for something like Teferi. That untapping the land is just so impactful.
Is overtop Jace the Mind Sculptor. I mean,
yeah.
To think that we'd be here like a year ago saying that, oh, they're going to print a Planeswalker in Standard that's better than Jace in Modern, I think everyone would have lost their minds.
Yeah, they just would have laughed and said, there's no way.
There's no way.
And then you look at Teferi and people are like, oh, it's great for Standard, but how... I don't think anybody expected that it would go into Modern or Legacy, and I believe it's even seeing it play in Vintage.
Yeah, I mean, just being blue-white are great colors for control, and that line of turn 5 being able to, or turn 6 being able to cast it, untap your lands, and still having plenty of mana up to interact with your opponent on their turn, just really is going to put it over the top of a turn 4 tap out for Jace, or waiting much later.
So even though Jace can protect himself by bouncing a creature, or if you don't have to do that, you can brainstorm. Incredibly powerful thing to do when you have access to fetches. The thing that Teferi does that Jace can't do is when you untap the 2 mana, you play him on 5, you untap 2 mana, and then all of a sudden you're holding up so much. You can hold up Path and Bolt in like Jeskai, or you can hold up Logic Knot, or you can hold up any number of answers, or sometimes multiple answers. So it's so much more difficult to answer Teferi. When you play him on 5 and you tick him up to 5, 5 loyalty is also a lot harder to answer than 3 loyalty.
5 is absolutely a lot of loyalty.
Bolting in response to a brainstorm or after it's resolved, when they don't have access to any mana to have counter magic or anything like that, that's a very common line. So guess that's likely a reason why we're seeing Teferi and not Jace right now.
Right, absolutely. And bouncing something with Jace is a semi-powerful ability. However, having access to the cards in your deck, which are more powerful than just that bounce, you know, Unsummon's not making its way into Modern.
No.
So it tends to be just slightly skewed in power level-wise.
Right. So I don't know how much time we have left on the round here. It did take us a little while to get that match going. We did come in just slightly after it had started to begin with. But we'll try to go around through the room and pick out some different decks, maybe some interesting decks if we can, to have on camera so that people will be excited to see something different.
It looks like we're getting from notes we got 3 minutes left on clock, so we don't have too much time left in the round. So I think we're going to go for break for now rather than go and find another deck. So we will see you in not too much longer.
For round 2.